Hey guys, Wade here, and in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my virtual Zoom setup for my clients. Now, it's a little bit different every place you go, but I want to break it down at one of the places that we come to all the time here in downtown Cleveland. So when the pandemic happened, a lot of people obviously took their events from all in person to now kind of a hybrid approach where it's like they might have people coming in via Zoom, they might have people in person, and that's something we've been getting really, really good at over the last 5 years. First, let's talk about what gear I'm using just for this event to record it, and then I'll break down how I'm getting the virtual person to work successfully in that room. So to start, I'm using an ATEM Mini Extreme to run this whole event, and it only has 2 camera inputs. They're from my Sony PTZ. For the Sony PTZs too, all this is controlled with this remote controller, which makes it really, really great for events where you're a one-man band or just kind of like a tight room. The nice thing too is this controller hooks up to a network switch, and then that network switch hooks up to the PTZ cameras. Now, this particular network switch will actually power one of the cameras, but the other camera is like an AI camera, which I made a video about, and it requires more power, so I have to physically plug that in. You could get a PoE++ switch, they call it, to power both cameras, but that's in our other rack case, and I didn't really want to take it out. And we have one more input that's coming from PowerPoint, which I'm also displaying on the screen in the room. For audio, I have my audio rack case, which has 4 short microphones in it. They're all handheld microphones. To control the audio, I'm using a digital mixer called a Behringer XR18, and I have it hooked up to a router, which actually was really, really simple. I might need to make another video about it, but setting up that router was actually super simple, and all I did was plug it into the Ethernet port, and then voila, it just worked. And with this particular mixer, there's no faders or buttons on it, so if you don't have a remote way to control it or plug directly into it, then you can't use it. So to control all that, I'm using Mixing Station. So I'm in this room right now where the meeting is going on just so I can do this video, but I can actually see all the levels of my Zoom guy talking. So as you can see right there, I have it labeled Zoom, he's talking away, and if those stop, then I'll know that I have to run in there real quick, but also I can sort of faintly hear him, which maybe you can too, so I'll know if anything goes wrong. So I forgot to mention there's like 50 people watching on Zoom, so they need to see what's going on in the room as well. So to do that, I do one USB-C cable from my ATEM Mini to the MacBook. This allows me to control the ATEM Mini if I need to. It also acts as a capture device, so I can show exactly what's on the program feed of the ATEM Mini. So since there's only one virtual presenter today, most of the time the people on Zoom are seeing my SuperSource feed, or they're seeing a full camera shot of the person talking in the room. Okay, so now let's get to the reason why you probably clicked on this video, and it's how do we get that virtual person in the room, how do we talk to them, and how do we make that sort of seamless? So in my setup here, I'm using the HDMI 1 to send out to the screen. Now you can control that with buttons directly on the ATEM, so you can tell it exactly what you want to go up on screen. So it kind of acts like an aux. Now for this particular event, PowerPoint's number 3, so when they're just doing PowerPoint in the room, I hit 3 and that sends it up to the screen. For the Zoom person, I'm actually hitting 4, and then they'll go up on the screen. So that's how I'm getting video up on the screen. Again, I'm taking my MacBook, plugging it back into my ATEM Mini as input 4, and then I'm sending it out via HDMI 1, and it's going directly into their wall port, which goes on the projector. So for audio, I actually chose to run all my audio through the XR18. And to do this, I'm using these little DI boxes. They are fantastic. I would recommend, if you do production all the time, that this is the primary way to get audio out of a MacBook. So the one thing I forgot to discuss is the audio outputs of my Behringer XR18. I have the left output going to the wall and the right output going to the ATEM. So you can see how the mix minus works, because I'm getting the audio from the laptop into the mixer, and then I'm actually sending it back to the laptop via the USB-C. Zoom will mix minus the audio.
Mix minus the audio, or mix minus, is an audio engineering technique where a person or remote caller receives a complete audio mix of a show, except for their own voice.
When the pandemic started happening, you'd get these things where audio would start to cross over and it would sound crazy and there'd be all this feedback. That's not anymore. The ATEM will automatically mix minus the feed going into Zoom. So it won't loop the presenter's audio back into itself, creating that looping, crazy feedback effect. Now, there'll be some audio guys in the chat that say no, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. Well, I'm not really an audio guy, but this seems to work for me pretty much all the time. So I can play music from the PowerPoint laptop or any videos that a presenter has from the PowerPoint laptop. And I can also have any audio that comes from the Zoom laptop go into that. And then that's just fed all the way up to the front of the room for an XLR port. Luckily, in this particular building that I'm in, they have kind of a presentation set up in all their conference rooms. So they have XLR ins, they have XLR outs, and they have HDMI ins, which is great. So I need to get back to the event going on in this room over here, but if you have any additional questions about that, let me know in the comments down below. This took a lot of trial and error just to make sure that my setup was perfect and that there would be no issues at events like this. Also, just like a pro tip, every time you have like a virtual speaker at an event, if there's time or you set up the day before, just test it. Yesterday, I got in a Zoom call with my business partner, Josh, and we just tested it real quick and we actually found an issue. I was using a really janky 3.5 to 1/4 inch cable for one of the laptops to go into the mixer, and it wasn't working. So when I was like, hey Josh, can you hear this video playing on Zoom? He's like, no. And I was like, oh no, that's not good. Put the headphones on, it wasn't working. And then we ended up finding an issue, and I ended up just connecting one of those DI boxes directly to it so that it would work. So yeah, so if you have any questions, put them in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in another video.